Five, four, three. Oh, wait, we're live. Hey, YouTube, watch me drink this invisible juice.
Is that green? Oh
It
God.
is green. It's completely green. Which is why which is why the actual jar is disappearing. Um, so, for those of you just joining me, welcome. My name is Brenton Lengel. I'm a poet, playwright, Appalachian Trail 2000 miler, and occasional debate bro. Though I will specify that I am not a debate bro in the sense that most people use the term, because usually when they mean that, they mean that a streamer that has arguments on their channel. I actually do like real debates, and just concluded one about the war on men with a certain James Hake of the Hake Report, the palette swapped version of Jesse Lee Peterson, like this, Sub-Zero and Scorpion, on modern day debate. And hey, Bobby, I forced him to watch it. So I'm going to drink this invisible juice because I have been fasting for about a month now. And that actually played into this debate. We'll talk about it later. And so Bobby, initial impressions of the debate.
Well, it's become something of a thing for me to tell a story before I review one of these debates with the wonderful folks that you find on the internet, Brenton. Normally I tell you a wonderful story about how the sun was shining and I was having a wonderful day, and then it gets spoiled by the debate. But today I'm bunkered down because it's a motorcycle rally in town, so I've been hearing the lovely dulcet sound of Harley Davidsons driven by northern dentists coming down to live out their masculine fantasies for about 18 hours.
So this debate was oddly appropriate then.
Oh yeah, it was great. And then two tires on my bulldozer popped, so I get to replace 2 bulldozer tires this week.
Holy shit, you have a bulldozer?
I have 3 bulldozers, bro. And a bobcat. It's only a bobcat if I'm driving it, though.
Okay, that's just really fucking cool.
Yeah.
I hope that if the Russians come here, you can like jerry rig one of those into like a freaking tank.
Oh yeah, dude, too easy. Look up the killdozer.
Yeah. Fucking love the killdozer.
Everyone loves the killdozer. Look it up, kids, if you haven't already. But that's oddly apropos, because when you said the debate was about the war on men, I thought it was going to be a reasoned discussion about right-wing talking points. And boy, was I surprised, because
holy shit.
I normally try to take notes on these, so I was sitting on my porch next to my hollowed out bourbon barrel where I hide my whiskey, because I'm very weirdly old school like that, smoking my lovely little Nicaraguan cigar, nice little underground Maduro, little Churchill.
I got my CBD oil.
Well, I got my cancer sticks. And then I tried to take notes for his opening. And I don't think he should go first in the next debate. I think he should respond to you, because I think it would work better. Because like I'm taking notes and it's like Trump's great, drag queen story hour was bad, transgenders are bad, the globalists are coming to take your manhood away from you, and women have penises apparently.
Yeah,
which I sent you a really great meme about his little biological essentialist.
Oh yeah, hang on. So that's Edelweiss, supposed to be the mark that found. Yeah, we had to talk about the clitoris.
Yes, you did.
Euphemistically. Oh, because I put myself through this bullshit.
Yeah, so like, and I told you before the debate jokingly, like, please ask him to define what feminism is, and I was saying that because I run into a lot of failed right-wingers, especially on the internet, who use terms and they don't understand what they mean. And like woke is a great example. Rico Rance and I just had a great chat about that on his channel about like the woke military. And
friend of the show, Rico Rance, go check him out. And if you ever play Among Us with him, do not trust
him. Great guy. But like woke doesn't have a meaning, the term woke, anymore. Like I haven't heard anyone on the left use it ironically in like 5 or 6 years. And the right just uses it to describe things that make them uncomfortable. And I think it was great that you asked Hake. Your intro, by the way, was on point, because you just discussed how there really isn't a war on men, and I'm sure we'll discuss that philosophically as this goes on. But you asked him like what feminism means, and he's like, it's women wanting to be God, which
Yeah.
is not what feminism means.
I had to chase him, and you noticed I had to really chase him down a rabbit hole just to get him to define masculinity.
Yeah.
Because I don't think he's ever really thought that deeply about these things. I think he's just taking like the Jesse Lee Peterson line.
Which he's like, I say this not to be mean to Hake, and I've never conversed with Hake or interacted with him at all. I'm sure he's probably an okay guy.
I mean, beyond his opinions are odious,
monstrous.
Yeah, but I will say this: I can't help but like him a little bit.
Yeah.
He's very friendly and really interesting and weird in a way that I almost named my channel the Friendly Anarchist.
Yeah.
And the reason I didn't was the channel name changed my email address. And like at the time I was like employed, and like I didn't want my bosses to know I was an anarchist. And so I was just, they can't suddenly be going to email me and get the Friendly Anarchist instead of Brett.
You should have gone with Resurrection with Brenton Lengel, because you had Insurrection with Lengel.
If I go back on the radio, I'll do Resurrection.
There you go.
We had some talks about the Resurrection, so yay.
Yeah, Jesus. Oddly apropos. But like my dad, and I love my dad, but my dad's in a yoga cult, right? And the way you were talking to Hake is a lot like the way I wind up talking to the people who are in my dad's cult. My dad's not the leader; he's a cog. If you watch Tiger King season 3, you actually see a lot of people that I know. I'll put it that way. But like,
Carol Baskin.
Fucking Carol Baskin, bro. She's not actually. Oh, she is in a little bit, but he has a lot of thought terminating cliches and a lot of thought terminating points, like choke points for actually interacting with things. But I think having that conversation with him might have done him some good, because it did actually make him think a little bit. Although the way he was thinking was just going back towards the stuff that he's getting from kind of the cult that he's in. Like, yeah, the one that's. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I would say like the really weird thing was that he defined like womanhood, or he's defined feminism as Satan. Like, he can't go much further with it. And then he gave a number of like things that masculinity is associated with, but had a real difficulty getting down to masculinity until we got him to hierarchy.
Yeah.
And that's ultimately what he's looking at as masculinity. It's being like serving your function within a hierarchical structure and not challenging it, which, by the way, I think that one of the things that men need to do to assert their masculinity is to challenge hierarchy. Like, otherwise, like, I mean, if you never challenge hierarchy, like you're kind of like that rooster that's just 100% beholden to like the alpha rooster.
Yeah, well, like something that he said at the beginning that I kind of wanted to address, and I think you did a good job equating it to the old Eastern God Kings, was his like reverence for Vladimir Putin, which is really disturbing. But something that I wanted to address is that he's saying that like the qualities of men are being strong and winning and leadership and all of this stuff. The Russian military right now is collapsing logistically because it's focused entirely on the optics of being like masculine and strong instead of actually having logistics and doctrine. So like the philosophy that he's kind of being exposed to, I hesitate to use the word philosophy, but the thinking that he's kind of being exposed to and kind of infected his brain with, it doesn't produce the results that he wants it to. Like, I've always been a left winger. I'm an army veteran. I'm a war veteran. I've had 82 amateur boxing fights.
I love how you and me are both fighters. That's really freaking cool.
Oh, it's great. We got to spar sometime.
That'll be nice. I will chop you down like a tree.
Oh, that's what you think, bro.
Well, if I'm remembering right, if you're a boxer, you probably have phenomenal footwork.
Oh, it's great. I did ballroom dancing and fencing to improve it.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I may have some trouble.
Well, I had and it's funny too, because that we brought that up because I had this friend who's a very, very, very gay man who was MMA fighter.
Ah.
And he ran into a guy like kind of like Hake,
Mhm.
who thought that being gay meant he was effeminate. And me, my friend, and a third friend were out drinking beer and eating pizza one night, and my friend who was the MMA fighter is built like a tank. Like the dude looks like he could eat Brock Lesnar. Like this is what this guy
Oh
looks like.
wow.
Yeah. And my one friend just says out of the blue, he says, "You can always tell a gay man by his hands." And my friend just slams his hands on the
Yeah.
table and goes like, "What the fuck do you mean by his hands?" So it's like these like preconceived notions, like
Mhm.
people don't fit neatly into these old categories of masculinity and femininity and toughness anymore. And I think Hake's kind of got a problem with that, and I can only speculate as to how that kind of came about.
Well, I find oftentimes with right wingers,
Yeah.
they are overly invested in social harmony,
Mm,
but they don't want to take the steps necessary and do the work to actually promote social harmony. They just want everybody to do what they're told and to,
yeah.
keep your head down and don't make waves and, support your betters.
Mm,
And like, obviously I'm exaggerating here. There's definitely a spectrum between the different right wingers that I know, but it's like the very idea of society unraveling frightens them so much that they sort of say to themselves, like, this is not really happening, this is not really a problem, this is just people with bad ideas
mm.
going crazy for no reason and tearing down our society, and we have to kill them,
Th-
usually beat them, kill them, kill them, that kind of thing.
They also, and Hake displayed this throughout the conversation, because I don't think this was really, and no offense to you or Hake, it wasn't really a debate. It was more of like him saying stuff and you kind of trying to lead him down a path of enlightenment, sort
Yeah.
of. Um,
I
th-
like to
th-
make people think. That's honestly like
yeah.
it's so one of the things that I absolutely hate about BreadTube and the left is that so many of them don't want people to think. They want people to take the party line
Mm,
as opposed to freeing people and freeing their minds and getting them into a situation where they can judge what's happening around them in an objective and reasonable manner and come to a conclusion that's best for them. That's really what I want. I don't want a bunch of Brenton Lengel followers. I don't want my own cult because Jesus Christ, that's that would waste a lot of my time and would be infuriating, I think.
you can go up to the spot where my dad is for an example, but it's not even a real version of like the past and the nuclear family that these people are idealizing. And I think Umberto Eco, in his like essay Fascism, wrote about this really, really well. It's not like a hard 14 points, it's more of a semiotic like
Yeah. By the
identification
way,
thing.
did you like that I defined fascism for?
I did. That was great because like because that is something that really annoys me is when like right wingers are like, oh, you throw that term around so much. It's like, no, it's because your movement is fascist in
Yeah.
character.
Now,
Don't have
to be fair,
yeah
I do want to bring this up. Left wingers throw fascism around most of the time in a
yeah
way that it just simply isn't, because they haven't bothered to actually read the books or study fascists. They just know fascists are bad. They know Nazi movies and
yeah.
shit like that. I had to stick my head in the history of like Spain, the Spanish Civil War, to really start to understand what fascism actually is.
I'll give you that begrudgingly just because you're right and I can't argue with you. um, but it's not an idealized version of tradition or or a real version of tradition or the past that they're idealizing and advocating for. It's this idealized, mythologized version of the past where it's like when we had the nuclear family, everything was great, and it's like no, not really. When we had like the nuclear family in the 1950s, women were on like all kinds of like uppers and downers and laughers and screamers just to get through her suburban hellscape. Um,
Yeah, that's actually like a really big thing that I've noticed that so my wife
yeah.
has been a housewife since our son was born. She had a job
Hmm.
that had the health insurance attached to it. And, after her maternity leave ran out, she couldn't bear to go back to work. So I said, okay, I will make all the money. We'll make this work. And it took some time and we had to move and, do all this other stuff. But I made sure that she would be able to be home with our son and I would make the money. And, the thing is that you'd think, especially because she was very stressed out at her job and didn't necessarily enjoy it that much. You would think that the fact that she, essentially her job is to stay home. I mean, both of our jobs is at this point, but before COVID, her job was to stay home and focus on raising our son and keeping everything here running while I was out slaving away 8 hours a day, for some capitalist. And you'd think that not going to work and that hanging out with this kid that is the center of your universe and, you love more than anything else on the planet is something that women would find really fulfilling, but it's not necessarily. Like there's a lot of stress associated with it. There's a lot of feelings of, just the very fact that I was the only one earning the money, even though as far as I'm concerned, it's both of our money, like that bothered her. So it totally makes sense that women in the 50s, when they were taken care of, really had a hard time with it. And I even kind of alluded to that when I told the story about my grandma and my grandpa.
Yeah, that was a really good story. And if you're curious about this and you're listening, Simone de Beauvoir wrote about this exact phenomenon in a really great book called The Second Sex, that is one of the, or was at one point, one of the seminal texts of feminism, where she talks about, and I believe it's The Second Sex, it could be a different one of her books because I've got a bunch of them sitting on the bookshelf. But she talks about how like the interesting kind of world of work and career and fulfillment was kind of denied to women, and they were forced to do basically like free labor, taking care of the kids and doing the housework. But at the same time, it's not like a slight against people who choose to stay home with the kids and choose to be a
Yeah.
housewife. And I think that's what conservatives don't get, because as long as I've been alive and paying attention, conservatives have been saying that like there's like these women who want to force women to go to work, and they want to force them to like not spend time with their kids, and they're not seeing that it's really an ill of capitalism that's like completely destroyed the ability of somebody to have one income and support a family in this country.
Yeah.
In a lot of places.
So there is a very interesting podcast that I love that my work was featured on briefly, which is Behind the Bastards with Robert Evans.
Yeah.
And he's actually doing a series now on like how rich right wingers stole Christianity. And it is really, really fascinating because like a lot of the early socialists like were Christians, very much like and ministers and all that kind of thing. A great example would be Reverend Martin Luther King. But well before that, like a century before, it was like Christians were socialists.
Oh, even long before that, if you go back to like the Renaissance, Fra Savonarola, the Mad Monk, who
Mhm.
had the bonfires of the Vanities in Florence, was like basically
I
doing a
love
proletarian
Florence.
revolution
Yeah.
in Florence.
I should look into that because that's my favorite. That is my favorite Italian city. Like for the major Italian cities, I love Florence. I love seeing the. I'm goth, so I love seeing the reliquary and like the saints' skulls in the.
Get back over the Danube, you goth, and get out of my empire. That was a history joke for anyone who caught it. But
Yeah. So I'm sorry. I think I derailed you. What were you saying?
oh, I was just talking about how it's an idealized version of the past that never existed and never will exist, that this movement is trying to replicate. And what's interesting to me is that a lot of the ills that Hake kind of was sort of buckshotting, it's really hard to follow. And I don't know if that's intentional or if that's like a lack of preparation on his part. I used to do NFA forensics, which sounds like it's something with guns, but it's actually speech and debate at a collegiate level. And it really sounded like an impromptu speaker who just hadn't prepared at all
You're talking
But
about his opening?
his entire debate, man.
Oh, yeah.
But it's this mythologized version of the past that never existed. But a lot of the ills that he was putting out, he said, like, we have to get rid of the minimum wage so that people can support a family on one income. Women have to go work. At one point, he said that. A lot of the ills that he's talking about, or advertising, he actually agreed with you on advertising, which I always find very curious.
Mhm.
These are all ills of like our modern capitalist system that he's advocating for. And I don't think he realizes that a lot of the ills of the system that he's advocating for are the same ills that he's complaining about in society now.
Yeah.
For instance, the advertising. I always wind up evangelizing Adorno, and I really don't want to, but it always comes back to like the culture industry. Um, they do prey on people's addictive tendencies, like you pointed out. And I
Yeah,
don't think like
certainty is a drug. And by the way, you know who I got that saying from?
who's that?
BZ Douglas of
Oh
BZ
yeah,
Listening. Yeah. He's the first one that pointed me in the direction of the research about how feelings of certainty like have an effect on the brain, not unlike cocaine.
and it's really interesting because he said to like avoid intellectualism. It's mostly because failed right-wing ideology doesn't stand up to any sort of intellectual or academic rigor at all.
Yeah.
And they build that into their ideology to avoid people thinking too much.
Yeah, they build it into fascism too. I mean, that's right there in our fascism,
It
like
is.
contempt for the intellectual and action for action's sake.
Yes.
You should just do stuff. It doesn't matter what you do. It doesn't matter why you're doing it, but just do stuff. And also, the stuff that you should do is like kill minorities. Like that's what they say.
Yeah, you know what? You're right. It does wind up doing exactly that. But it's always interesting to me because like there's this like prohibition about critical theory on the right. But if they actually studied critical theory, a lot of their complaints about like modern culture and stuff are answered in those texts. And maybe you're leading him down a road of being a little more curious about the world, and maybe he'll actually read some things. If you are listening, Hake, go read Dialectic of Enlightenment. It's a really dry read, but
Yeah,
you'll get a
well,
kick out
it's
of it.
funny because we were talking about dialectics. I wanted to. Oh shit. Okay, that was the thing. So I wanted to recommend he read Tolstoy, specifically "The Kingdom of God is Within You."
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a phenomenal book. By the way, I wanted to. So I wanted to highlight this from our things from the Progressive American. Conservatives treat men like a means to achieve political and economic outputs without treating those men with the dignity they rightly deserve. Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a huge part of the right where they want to just like they want to basically rule over all the other men in the country, throw their sons into the freaking meat grinder that is their perpetual war machine. And then when these soldiers come back and when these people are in need, is it loyalty through the bad times and the good? No, they just cut them out to dry because these are fundamentally selfish people.
You know, I just had an experience with that today, actually, to illustrate your point, is that I was talking to a woman who's related to me, who called me weak for having post-traumatic stress symptoms from the war.
Holy shit.
Yeah, someone who has like only worked office jobs and like never served in the military or anything.
You've been in like 2 freaking combat. You've killed people.
Did in fact, yes.
Shit.
But it's like I was just like, wow. And you know, there was a time when I would have really gotten angry, and then I'm realizing that it's a function of this toxic idea of what masculinity is in this society, where like you can't show any weakness. You have to be like the father knows best, patriarch of the family. And
They associate God with a king,
yeah,
and they associate the king with a father, and all that bullcrap.
and there's a tendency on the right, or with fragile men a lot of the time, for lack of a better term, to assume that feminism is hostile towards masculinity and men. And I can't blame them entirely for that, because if you read a lot of feminist theory or a lot of critical theory, you're going to come away with like an idea that it's hostile towards masculinity. In fact, it's really hostile towards the hierarchy of patriarchy and the system of patriarchy.
Yeah,
which is abusive towards men too. Yeah,
which I pointed out in the debate, and I feel like I was glad I got to make that point where I was like, you know, look, I'm a father. I'm literally a patriarch. Does freaking Vladimir Putin contact me? We're polling fathers who run the world. Like, can I invade Crimea? No, he just doesn't.
Can you?
All right. So there is something that I wanted to ask about, and please be honest on this.
Absolutely.
So I've occasionally had issues because of the way that I'm trained to speak. I'm a theater actor. So like I would have issues with like little bits of spittle on my mouth and stuff. Because I am fasting, I am suffering from frequent dry mouth as a result of burning off all of my COVID cookies. And about halfway through, I like ran out of spit. Like
I did not notice that at all.
Okay,
but
good.
That's hilarious.
I was sitting there, like the entire front of my mouth, it was just dry, and I was worried I was like lisping, and I couldn't stop to just grab it. So you'll notice, like as soon as I was done, I like grabbed my invisible water and was just like.
You got to try the San Pellegrino Essenza with the blood orange.
Well, you know what we've got now. I've got a Soda Stream. I'm officially posh.
Oh yeah, hipster.
Yeah, I got it for Christmas. I love everything about it.
I've been thinking about it because I keep those Pellegrino guys in business. But
oh yeah, well here's the thing with the Soda Stream, you may spend a lot on like refilling it, but what I find is great about hey, by the way, welcome to the anarchist thing where I advertise Soda Stream.
I was about to say, and that, kids, is how you do a plug.
Yeah, but like no, like the great thing about it is I always have trouble. Like I have trouble drinking enough water, particularly because I was spoiled on New York City tap water, which is some of the best in the country. So when I moved outside of New York, I was on a different tap water, and oh my God, you poor rest of America. Like the taste is just horrific.
You gotta get that Yankee hat. You got to get that New York City tap water, and you got to get them butters. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, you haven't lived in New York. But like it's funny because we did have like a kind of idea of what like a man should be when I lived in New York too. You know, you wore your Yankee hat, you wore your tech sweater, and you wore your butters, which are butter colored Timbs. And I remember I didn't really know about that yet, and I went to school in black Timbs one winter. And my buddy walks up to me. He's like, "You gotta get them butters, man. You gotta get them butters." I had no idea what he was talking about, but which highlights that fact that like our ideas of masculinity, what it means to be like a quote unquote man or a woman, in society are completely socially constructed. We don't live in a state of nature, and we haven't lived in a state of nature for some thousands of years. And
hang on, wait. Try talking to a vet with hard of hearing. You speak like, oh, okay. Christine, I was actually really worried that you were saying that there was like a vet in your room who was covering his head because I was talking too loud. So it's really good to just hear you echoing that. I was just like, oh my God, am I just a total jerk yet again? So
my hearing's shot too. So I feel the pain of whoever that veteran is out there.
Yeah, my hearing, I'm partially deaf and this year because I listened to my mother. Didn't go to the doctor when I needed to,
which is toxic masculinity.
Absolutely, and that's why I'm glad that I got to bring it up because I wanted to. George Carlin, I just love this. I was a little more dismissive of feminist academics than I normally am, but that was because I was kind of playing to the audience. But like George Carlin spelled out toxic masculinity well before any of these academics were talking about it, and in his thing, The Male Disease, and just Google that. There is George Carlin, The Male Disease. There is a short stand-up routine, like I think it's from one of his books that he narrates, and it spells out like all of the ways that our current society puts men into terrible positions and treats them like dirt. And like it's fascinating, and I really think that like people who would otherwise be interested in this thing get turned off by the phrase toxic masculinity because it seems to imply that you're saying that all masculinity is toxic when that's not at all the case. And like I really think that like anybody who who wants to understand this, but doesn't have it couched in 8 or 9 different layers of academic abstraction, like just listen to Carlin.
Which I think is an issue that we have in general in society now. Because I was thinking about this, because we went from in like the early 60s, The Second Sex, which I mentioned earlier, The Stranger, Myth of Sisyphus, Being in Nothingness, even Heidegger were like best-selling books that like normal working people were buying, because those books, if you read them, they're dry, but they're accessible. You can kind of grasp it. I did without much of a background in philosophy.
For the Zoomers, by the way,
yeah,
books are YouTube videos, just old.
yeah. And Connor just commented with somebody else who I should have mentioned, but philosophers have been talking about this even before Carlin. It's just that I think an issue that we're having now is that these philosophies and these ideas are not accessible to average people as much as they should be. Modern philosophy, if you read like a modern philosophy journal without like a serious background in philosophy, it's really difficult to follow a lot of the argumentation in those papers.
So hang on for just a second, and I do want to show this. Respectfully, Mary Wollstonecraft could give Carlin a run for his money. I'm sure, and I was unaware of her, so I will look into her as well.
Oh, she's great, man. You'll love her, man.
That's terrific. Now I'll just have to find time to read a book.
Oh, even if you just read like the little existential comics.
Oh, okay. I will. Well, then I'll definitely check those out.
Her history of the French Revolution and God. Okay, hold on a second. I'm gonna look at my bookshelf real quick.
Yeah,
because I have her here. Vindication of the Rights of Women is an incredible book, which was written in 1792.
Okay, so she did beat Carlin. I was wrong. Thank you.
And do you know who her daughter was?
No, who was her daughter?
Take a wild guess, because she's kind of in your field. And 1811-ish.
1811.
Not an anarchist, but a writer.
Oh, a writer. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was thinking of this. Oh my God, Virginia Woolf.
Mary Shelley.
I'm an idiot.
Yeah.
Virginia Woolf is way later than that too. Mary Shelley, the woman who I never would have guessed that, by the way. The woman who wrote freaking Frankenstein because she got bored of constantly having threesomes with like Lord Byron and her husband.
Hey, you got to do what you got to do. Which is another thing where I was talking about earlier, is that like this isn't like the late 1700s, early 1800s, and these people are like living like libertines. The modern conservative idea of what like the family and the relationship is supposed to be is very, very new. Jesse Lee Peterson's brand of Christian cultism is super new. I mean, the disturbing part of it, though, the part that I found. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, first, I was going to say, did you notice that he said? I didn't think he'd go there. You notice he said, "Might sometimes makes right."
Yeah, that was one of the many things that I was going to highlight about being super disturbing. It kind of it flows from the idea, or the place where the idea originated, which is Imperial America at this point, where the right-wing movement in this country is rejecting the Westphalian world order, where we respect sovereignty and only interfere when people infringe on other nations' sovereignty or the broader system. And I just spared you like 2 international relationships classes, but they've rejected that idea, and they're assuming that because America has more military power than other countries, that we can do what we want. And we see that seeping into this radical right-wing version of Christianity. And that idea is completely incompatible with the actual God of the Bible. The God of the Bible is goodness and morality. And, whether that position pans out philosophically is a whole nother bag of worms. But it's not good because God does it. God does it because it's good. But people like this see that God has ultimate power. God does something, therefore it's good because God has ultimate power. The point of the Bible and the morality of Jesus Christ, especially, it's not the superpowers. It's the
result. The little people.
It's the little people. Exactly correct.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I mean, Tolkien worked with that in The Hobbit, and he explained that I forget if this is a Bible verse or not, but it's like God uses the weak to confound the wicked.
I don't know if that is a Bible verse. I've heard
Yeah.
that before, though.
Well, I think it makes a lot of sense, because like you're talking about this failed right-wing ideology,
Yeah.
the failed right, and he calls it the failed right, not because they have necessarily failed politically. They were very powerful politically for quite a while. I think they're on their way out.
Yeah.
But because it's actually failed to deliver on all of its promises.
Exactly correct. Thank you.
Yeah. But because, like, I feel like a lot of Americans, when they saw our failure in Vietnam, and they saw, like, and I mean the failure of our empire, and they saw our failure in Iraq after the Second Iraq War, and our failure in Afghanistan, but they're looking at the most powerful society in human history with access to weapons that, like, no one else has, that could literally end all life on Earth as we know it if the wrong person gets behind the button. But yet we can't seem to beat the Afghanis into submission. We can't seem to conquer the Vietnam. We can't seem to conquer Iraq. And so they kind of get this idea, I think, that, like, it's the liberals preventing that like the Democrats are weak, and as a result of their weakness, they will not use our full strength. And what we really need to do to get the economy great and to get the world power in order is to just boom, boot heel, use all this. And what they don't realize is we're already doing that.
I actually almost got into a fight in a barber shop with somebody who had that ideology recently, because he was talking about the war and how we should have killed more people and broken more stuff, which is basically what he said. And I tried to explain to him
that comes from a guy who wasn't there.
Yeah, he was like 17, and I tried to explain to him that, like, what we didn't understand was that when you kill more people and break more stuff, every one guy you kill, you create 5 more terrorists because you just angered his family and his friends. And he looks at me, and it was a line from Generation War, which is a great show on Netflix about Germany during World War II. But he looked at me, as like, with soldiers like you, no wonder why we didn't win.
Oh.
I've been having an interesting month, man.
Oh, I know some things about you, and
yeah,
I will not say them because you told me not to say them. But
I appreciate that.
Yeah, if we had a million soldiers like you, it would be a much better military. We'll just say
the barber kicked him out.
Man, you pissed off a barber kid.
I did. He did. He's like, get out. But
oh yeah. Hey, by the way, this I'm loving.
It is a Bible verse. I see that. First Corinthians.
Progressive American guy, Corinthians 1:27-29.
Yeah.
God has chosen the foolish things of the world to confound the wise. God has chosen the weak things of the world to confound the things which are mighty. Hell yes.
And boy, was I confounded listening to this debate.
Which must mean you're very wise.
I just did give myself a little compliment there. Yes, you caught.
No, that's all right. Please do. You deserve it.
Toot my own horn.
Yeah. Well, I have found that this is like an artist thing for me.
No, go ahead.
But, like, you have to toot your own horn until you get to a point where someone can be paid to toot your horn for you. Once you get
toot your horn for you? That's illegal in most states. But
this was like the bluest debate, actually, that I was in yet.
Oh my god!
Did you hear the bit when he was? I think it was during the thing when he was like, your wife is under you, and I'm like, well, sometimes she is.
Yeah, that was great. I got a good cackle out of that. Oh man! Well, it's weird too because they can't fathom a partnership in a relationship, and it's like, personally, this is, I guess, Chad Bob talking here, kids, but, like, I don't want, like, a trad submissive wife because that seems like really boring. I like someone who could help me be a better person. And I think these guys who want that trad wife thing that they're talking about that never existed really in history, they kind of see women as objects and prizes to be won, which is an element of kind of toxic masculinity. And that's not healthy in a relationship. That relationship is not going to last. If you've ever known somebody in a relationship like that, it's just not good.
Yeah.
and I feel bad for these people who get into this headspace where they think that getting like an object uh, is going to make their life better, but that object's a human being that you're treating kind of poorly. And it's
You
just
know,
really, really weird.
this is really so. One of the other people that I listened to prepare for this was to kind of get my thoughts in order.
Hmm.
Was Alan Watts.
Yeah.
Was my favorite philosopher, and you can Google it, just like Alan Watts on masculinity, and it's a snippet of several of his lectures, like all together, because he will occasionally talk about masculinity. And Alan Watts also, he speaking about love, he said that like what love is, like is a person, like in the romantic sense, it is a person who is not under your control, who has agreed to be somewhat under your control, like because they love you and you love them and stuff. So there is and like he compared it to the reason that you know that someone loves you and that you value it is that because they can at any time revoke that consent, and do whatever they're going to do. And that's interesting. But like, if you had a woman that did absolutely everything you want whenever you wanted it, might be nice for a little while, but after a while you realize that's not a person, and you're essentially making love to a plastic woman.
Sorry, plastic woman, just it cracked me up.
No, that's all right.
It's just a profoundly weird section of a profoundly weird movement that Hake has found himself in. And it weirded me out when he said that Jesse Lee Peterson was white on the inside.
Oh, wow. And then he like tried to couch it. Like Jesse Lee Peterson's like, I'm white on the inside. And then he tried to couch it instead of a race thing, it was suddenly like a purity thing. But then you don't want to say you're white on the inside. You would say that you're pure on the inside. Like the only reason he's saying he's white on the inside is to make it a race thing.
Yeah. It's like Uncle Ruckus, but if Uncle Ruckus got what his goal was to be actually a white man, it was like really disturbing, and it was really disturbing not because like Hake said that, and it's something that like Jesse Lee Peterson wouldn't approve of. It's disturbing because it's something that he probably heard from Jesse at some point. And it's
I think I've even seen clips where Jesse says that.
I purposely don't watch Jesse Lee Peterson for that exact reason.
I haven't seen too many of the clips. I saw his conversation with Destiny redone as an episode of South Park, which was absolutely hilarious. I have a feeling, by the way, after tonight's thing, because James did bring up me speaking to Jesse Lee Peterson, so who knows, maybe that'll happen soon.
That would be a trip.
Yeah. Well, I've already fought Hake, so yeah, might as well.
You're moving up the Mortal Kombat ladder. You fought Sub-Zero, now you got to go for Scorpion.
Yeah.
Or you unlocked Reptile. You unlocked Reptile in the pit. This is a 90s joke for the Zoomers that they're not going to get.
Oh, fun fact. In Snow White Zombie issue 5, there is a Mortal Kombat reference.
Oh, nice.
And I love it. I can't wait I'm not going to tell anyone what it is, but I can't wait for it to come out and for somebody to get it because it's freaking awesome. And I'm so happy and proud of myself for hiding it in there.
I did want to talk a little bit about whether or not there is actually a war on men, because it didn't really come up in the debate.
Yeah, it was more James talking about a bunch of things related to men that he doesn't like.
Yeah, or Connor just brought up in the chat that Mary, and I wanted to say how weird it was. He was saying that Mexican people worship Mary and women and stuff, and and this is not a slight against like Hispanic culture or anything, but like there's a huge machismo thing in like Spain and Mexico.
I would say that the like Mexicans like have more machismo than like Hake.
Or me even.
I mean they're freaking the Spaniards and stuff. Like the Spanish and the Spanish influenced cultures, like they have a really strong line of machismo.
It was really profoundly strange to hear that.
Yeah. And we got from Progressive American, did he say that? Yes.
Almost verbatim.
Yeah, he said, it was verbatim. He said that Catholics worshipped Mary, or no. He said, he didn't say Catholics worshipped Mary. He said Mexicans worshipped Mary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just so weird, man. It's like I don't even know. I give you all the credit in the world for having like the patience of a saint with this guy. No,
Buddhism, man. It is phenomenal.
because I couldn't do it, bro.
Yeah.
I could not do it. I was. Oh, go ahead.
Oh no, you say your thing, and then I'll go back to.
Oh no, I was just saying I was very much enjoying these tropical beer hugs from Goose Island as I was listening to this.
Nice. I'm not normally a Goose Island kind of guy. I've stopped drinking, and so I'm very thirsty. But I've stopped drinking for while I'm on this fast because I am cutting back down to probably where I was when I got off the Appalachian Trail, which was around 180.
Oh God, I can bench press you.
Yeah. Well, I'm not there yet. I've got quite a ways to go, but I've lost 20 pounds so far.
Good for you, man.
Yeah. Well, amazing not eating. So real quick, I wanted to go through this because he's the Progressive American. For those of you watching, he's a Catholic, and he wanted to kind of give his Catholic perspective on might makes right. So let's pull this out here. And I think it's also talking about gender. I will say that even the Bible, with all of its problems, has recognized the value of women in their own right. It is not a feminist text, but it can be an expanded one. Yeah, absolutely. Like there's garbage in the Bible, like Timothy 2:12 and stuff. But like, yeah, it definitely is not what I think Hake's sect believes it is.
No, that's why I really like the Jefferson Bible. If I'm going to read another Bible, I'll probably read that again, where Jefferson edited out all the stuff that Jesus didn't explicitly say, and it's really, really good book.
Yeah, I'll check that out. I kind of take Alan Watts's approach to the Bible. In fact, I actually think I quoted him verbatim when I said it. I think it's as good a historical text as anything else that we have from that period.
Yeah, he's not wrong.
Yeah, I feel like I really got him where I was like, dude, I could write a Bible and say it's the word of God, and in 1,000 years, who's to say otherwise? In particular, the role of Deborah in Book of Judges 5:26, shows her using violence to overthrow a tyrant. Women are not under any circumstances subservient to men. Yes, you are totally right.
I believe there's actually a painting of that, and it's really good.
And then we have God chose Mary for a reason, to be without sin, not Joseph. Yep. And that was really interesting, actually, because he really seemed to have a problem when I was like, yeah, no, life begins as female, and men are modified females. And he tried to counter my science with Genesis.
Well, he just said no. Like basically anytime that you're going to come up with like an objective fact or a fact that's mostly proven out by our processes these days, they just say no, and they default back to their original position.
Yeah,
because it's a weird movement that kind of comes out of Calvinism, I want to say. But I'm not a scholar of religion, so I can't really like.
Well, no, it kind of makes sense. So like, I was dealing with this woman who was in that. Do you remember the May 21sters from like 2010? Like,
when the world was going to end, and they
the world was going
to
and they show up. There was this woman standing in the 42nd Street subway, and because we had what I used to call the tunnel of crazy, because I'd be commuting, and I get off the A train to go to the usually the yellow line. So the
they don't know, Brent.
Oh, okay. Sorry, it's very inside baseball, New York. So basically, I'm switching from one set of trains to the other, and to do that, I needed to walk through one of the busiest subway terminals in the world, and this is filled with nut jobs. So. And artists, which is nice. So like you start off and there's like the Church of Scientology, and then you go a little bit further and there's a bunch of what do they call? There's a bunch of Jehovah's Witnesses, And then you go beyond them, and then you get like a Peruvian pan flute band. And then you keep going, and there was usually this like sort of fire and brimstone Latin preacher who I used to yell at when I went by on occasion and heckle. And then you go beyond that, and then you got to the Hare Krishnas and the May 21sters. And so these people, like their preacher or whoever had told them that the world was going to end on May 21st. I think it was 2010. Might have been 2011 or 12, but
I think it was 10 because I was one of the people that let a blow-up doll go up in the air with helium.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So 2010, like the world is going to end, and I like there's this woman standing there, older, late middle-aged woman, like older black lady, and she is holding this sign, that the world's going to end, and I kind of come up to her and go, okay, so you think the world's going to end on May 21st? And she's like, it is. And I'm like, okay, what if it doesn't? What are you going to do? And she's like, it is. And I'm like, okay, yes, I know you think it is, but what are you going to do if it's not? And she's just like, she just repeated, like, it's locked in. Like, she couldn't even bring herself to entertain the possibility that the world would not end on May 21st. And there was something like really sad about that. I read this article about like one of the guys who was high up in this thing, who'd given all of his money to it. He had a house in like Brooklyn or Staten Island or something. He ate that Ezekiel bread, the bread that was supposedly from the Bible, which is hilarious. I'm guessing you know why.
Yeah, it tastes really bad too.
Oh, well, so the Ezekiel bread is penance bread in the Bible.
I know, I've had it. It's really bad.
You are supposed to eat it after cooking it over burning poop.
Oh, I didn't know that part.
Yeah.
Oh, God. Oh, God, what did I eat? Oh, God.
So they're like, oh, yeah, this is a recipe of bread from the Bible. And people that haven't read that portion of the Bible buy it. And yeah. So missed the debate. Did you shakabuku Hake and convert him to Buddhism? Not yet. It's very interesting with shakabuku too, because SGI uses that term oftentimes like interchangeably with like witnessing to people. But shakabuku traditionally was debates between, the clergy about Buddhism and about the sutras and stuff. So, I would argue that I guess what I did was considered shakabuku, because I was expressing the core truth of the Lotus Sutra. And I did actually talk about Buddhist theology a number of times. So yes, I shakabuku'd Hake, but no, he's not a Buddhist yet. We'll see.
Yeah, the one that I wanted to touch on a little bit too was the slavery point.
Yes,
I found it super disturbing that he said he had a rebel flag and that it was the War of Northern Aggression. That John Brown was wrong to fight against slavery. I
love that I didn't even intend that, but like I was just like, yeah, freaking John Brown is amazing.
Yeah, I mean, like, for real, like the dude tried to start a slave revolution to free an entire people from bondage. Like, not a bad guy. It's really weird too that the Confederate leadership during the Civil War were all these like Southern dandies who were very like effete, snobbish, and like wilting lilies, if you really like looked at them. And the Northern leaders were all these like very hard Maine guys, Pennsylvania roughnecks, like West Virginia coal miners who came down. Like if you want to look up somebody during the Civil War, look up Bloody Chamberlain. This dude got like shot like 7 times during the Civil War, and he just like kept coming.
If I'm not mistaken, that was he was played by Jeff Daniels in
Gettysburg. Yeah,
exactly. That's my mom's favorite character.
He should be.
Let's see. So I know I am spamming. No, you're not spamming, and I'm happy you're making comments here. Please like, comment, subscribe. That
helps the algo.
Yeah, it makes my sacrifice to the dark god known as the algorithm. But I'm angry at people who use the Bible to control other people. But when you think about the end of times from a Catholic perspective, consider the following. All right, let's check this out. Mark 13:32, but the day or hour no one knows, neither angels in heaven nor the Son, but only the Father. Yeah, well, kicks out the May 21sters.
Yeah, completely.
Yeah, those who claim to know the hour or minute are the cruelest of mankind. Yeah, and probably the proudest as well. And many Northerners were free soilers. That's freaking awesome. You know, it's really interesting. There's a great video by the channel like Otten Shea. And he does a phenomenal video, basically making a defense for Puritans, and links up like the Puritan ethic with the diggers and the levelers and the shakers and everything. Like, yeah, again, Christianity traditionally has been a liberatory force that is hostile to entrenched power. And, you know, it's just been captured essentially by these American evangelicals who, two reasons. One, they worship power.
Yeah.
They worship the golden cat. I even said actually in the debate
that he worships the graven image of an ancient Eastern king instead.
Yes.
The God of the Bible, which is true.
Mm-hmm. And then, like,
go ahead.
Yeah, no, and then also there's a big problem because a lot of the churches in America, well, I guess all of them to a certain extent, they depend upon donations from their richest members, and the richest members obviously want to hear the kinds of sermons that say good things, that mean good things for them. They're the best people. They deserve this wealth. Everyone should follow them, that kind of thing. And like Watts talked about it, because he, like, even back in like the 50s, 60s, and 70s when he was doing his the majority of his work, like he would have very frank discussions with clergy who were all like college educated people with complicated theological understandings, who would want to put forth a much more liberatory gospel. But here is the problem. A lot of the people that are receptive to that message are secular and not religious, and they're not going to be coming into church very often, particularly because they think church is full of a bunch of like conservative fuddy-duddies. And then two, if the preachers preached what the wealthy patrons didn't want to hear, they are risking they're not just their job, but like the future welfare of their church and congregation. So like there is a real danger in how churches operate within America that makes them uniquely easy to turn towards specific political goals. And it's really disgusting and terrifying.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's weird too, because Augustine of Hippo actually wrote a tract way back. I want to say this is like 200 or 300 AD, but Connor will probably correct me on it, about the literal meaning of Genesis. Mm-hmm. And he actually warned people not to take Genesis literally all the way back then. Because he's like, people will not take you seriously if you say that there's a literal 7-day creation and that humans have only been around for like 2,000 or 3,000 years at this point. And we've kind of lost that. And it's interesting that we get a movement that's kind of marrying Christianity to a capitalist culture industry. But something interesting I kind of wanted to highlight on his ideas of masculinity was a guy named Audie Murphy. And I don't know if you're familiar with Audie Murphy.
I am, and you know why I'm familiar with Audie Murphy?
How's that?
I passed his memorial on the Appalachian Trail when I was hiking through North Carolina.
Audie Murphy, for those of the audience that don't know, won literally every medal for bravery he could possibly win in World War II. This dude, at the end of Fury, where Brad Pitt's on the burning tank shooting the 50 cal off, Audie Murphy did that in real life and lived. And that was like the second or third time he had been decorated for bravery during the war. Audie Murphy was probably the baddest man alive circa 1945. He was also rejected from the Marine Corps because he was too little and not manly enough. That. So like the weird standards of masculinity, if they were followed back in the 40s, would have deprived the United States of the greatest warrior in the history of our army, who was Audie Murphy. So again, that kind of goes back to the point that these ideals of masculinity that these guys are highlighting, they're not based in material reality, and they never have been.
Yeah, it's very frustrating for me. I wrote an essay a few years ago for Greed Media, and it got shared so much it literally broke the site.
Yeah.
But it was I titled it "Why the Alt-Right Fails at Masculinity." You may still be able to find it, or maybe not. Some weird stuff has happened with some of the articles on like Greed Media and the Fifth Column and stuff. But like, so as far um, as far as that goes, like you look at these people, the people that embrace, you know, kind of fascist ideology, you know, who would have if there were a fascist leader around, you know, and you look at like the traditional fascist leaders and like, oh my gosh, like freaking Mussolini was like a broken Alistair. He looked like Alistair Crowley, or like at best, what's his name? Marlon Brando after the poor guy let himself go.
He's
And
more of
he
a
was,
Brando guy. I would
yeah,
give you that one.
and he was the most masculine of all the fascist leaders. Franco, you know, was a tiny little school teacher looking dude. He looked to be about 5 foot nothing. And then like what's the other one? I mean, well, Hitler, obviously.
Well, that German corporal or Austrian corporal actually did win an Iron Cross, so I'll give him that
Yeah.
one.
Well, we'll give him the thank you for praising Hitler on my channel.
I didn't.
Yeah, no, you didn't. That's
Rest in hell, but
yeah. Yeah, well, you know, actually that's actually a good point to bring up, because
Yeah.
a lot of the fashion, like not Mussolini, he was like he was already fleeing the country when his march on Rome was going, and he caught a train to get back in because he won. He was sure he was going to lose.
But he had a fabulous hat during World War One.
Yeah, well, hats are cool. We all need fabulous hats.
Feathers everywhere.
Yeah, but like the thing is like a lot of like the people that really like made the fascists powerful were all veterans, like hardcore veterans of World War One, and they tended to also be scrapping with socialists and anarchists who were also hardcore veterans of World War One at the time. So like these were that's why like the street fighting was so brutal. A lot of these people had been, you know, essentially like forged in the crucible of war, and you know they did some really horrifying things, particularly the fascists in Spain. And you know, Spanish culture unfortunately still it did and probably still does have like a great deal of cruelty to it, as well as, you know, some of the better and brighter spots of it, like the anarchists.
Thank you for not portraying veterans as like a monolith, because a lot of times when people talk about what you're talking about right now, they just describe all veterans towards the fascists, which is not true.
Yeah, definitely not. Oh no, we all saw that the general that what was his name? The one that the right got super mad at?
Milley.
Milley, yeah, we've all seen the General Milley things where people have photoshopped him having like blue hair, and like the my favorite one was the thing where it has him, he's like sitting there answering the questions, and it says, "I've watched Vosh."
that man, okay, a little inside baseball. If you look at his uniform, all right, he's a Special Forces Ranger with at least 2 Valor citations that I remember looking at on his uniform, with a star on his combat infantry badge, which means he's seen direct infantry combat in 2 wars.
Yeah. Well, you know, oh, by the way, generals in infantry combat, I think it was just a day or so ago, like one of the biggest Russian generals got sniped.
He was like a division commander, so I don't know if he was like high command, but like, yes, it would be like if the commander of the 82nd Airborne got clapped, which, you know, if somebody's got to get clapped, it may as well be the generals. Solidarity with the people of Ukraine.
We should do a stream and talk about Ukraine.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because I would really like to get your perspective as a veteran. I've gotten some very different perspectives, because like one of my friends tends to be an apologist for Russia just in general and everything that's not America. And then also, but like, yeah, so if there's a Kremlin line, he's probably going to take it.
I know who you're talking about.
Yeah. And I won't go in.
I won't. I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, that's fine. if people know me, they know who it is. And then I have another friend he wouldn't describe himself as on the right, but he's very much on the right. But he's not dumb about it. And his dad was CIA.
Oh, wow.
And so I've been talking to him about this whole thing and, how everything's going to shake out. So I would be very interested to talk to you and to get another perspective on this.
It would be an absolute pleasure.
Yeah, I've also been watching Ben Burgess because hey Ben, love hanging out with you. Thank you for everything you've done for the channel. I'm sorry I still haven't watched your thing with Joe Rogan, which I really need to do. That will be the first and probably only Joe Rogan podcast I listen to. Yeah. So anyway, where the hell were we? I'm sorry, I got sidetracked on General Milley.
The conversation was such a scattershot; it's kind of hard to follow. The last couple things I really wanted to cover that I have kind of in my notes, other than question mark, explanation point, why Brent, why, were the abortion issue. It was. It's not surprising that he takes an anti-choice stance, but at the same time, that's not like a war on men. Men don't and shouldn't have dominion over women's bodies.
Demonizing women.
But you can't kill a baby's soul. Secular means in Christian theology can't kill a soul. There's no like special move to kill a guy's soul. You can't. I've tried in 82 boxing matches to punch somebody in the soul. Never quite managed it. I watched Doctor Strange a couple times. Didn't work. And the slavery thing was really, really weird to me. That slavery is the natural state of humanity, and I really hope that that's not getting more popular on the failed right wing.
Yeah, that's really scary. Hey, we got a super chat. Let's see what we got. Russian army was just killing Kazakhs in Jan and off on other Middle Easterners, yet no outrage from the mainstream media. I do agree, but be a little careful with that, because half the time you see people be like, why haven't we heard about this huge story? It's like a story we've heard of. It's not like the center of like most of the media coverage. Like I saw somebody on my wall or on a friend's wall was like, hey, why are we hearing about the Ukraine but not the war in Yemen? And I'm like, well, because the war in Yemen is not possibly going to start World War III and end life on this planet as we know it.
Yeah, it's also kind of a function of like what people pay attention to. I think a lot of kind of systemic racism about those things is being exposed with, especially with this conflict.
Yeah.
The Congo, in the last month, 50 people were sentenced to death for murdering 2 UN aid workers. And then that same militia retaliated and killed 60 people in another attack. Both of those were reported in the media. It's just that people don't really care.
Off with it. Yeah. Our media, we have a capitalist media that is run by a couple of, just a few companies, and they report what is most convenient for them and what's going to make them the most money. And unfortunately, what makes them the most money is usually not actual important news that people need to know about, and like hard-hitting investigative journalism. It's, being a cheering section for, being a cheering section essentially for the American empire, and providing an ideological defense for the wealthy and powerful elites that control our society.
Or just what sells.
Yeah. And when I say elites, I do not mean Jewish people. Just I'm going to make that very clear.
I don't know. You were just praising Hitler earlier, man. I don't know.
That was you. Oh shit! Oh no! Now somebody's gonna fucking clip that, and like they'll be
It'll be me. It'll be me. I was CIA all along.
Oh, they'll be Oh my god. So, all right. What? So not to get off of this, because now I'm all thinking about Ukraine and freaking out.
We'll definitely have to do a thing about that. Yeah.
Yeah, I really want to talk about that. Maybe tomorrow, because we're going to go over the final chapter of Homage to Catalonia. Maybe we can work that in, or just do a stream on its own.
Yeah.
All right. So, quick question for you: where do you think I was the strongest in this debate, and where do you think I left a bit to? There was a bit of improvement.
Your opening was great, and it presented a coherent argument and kind of
And you couldn't tell that I was tripping over my words because my tongue in this
not,
section of my mouth was completely dry.
not even a little bit. It was really good that you asked him what the definition of feminism was, and actually got him to go down the rabbit hole of his kind of fringe beliefs. Um, what I
You have to kind of ask Hake, like
yeah.
when you talk to him, like there's two big things I would recommend to anybody who ever has to debate Hake. Thing number one is don't ever get angry,
No.
because his cult, or sect, I should be nice to say sect. They define anger as womanly.
Yeah.
I know it doesn't make sense, but they do. And so, like, part of their game is to say a bunch of really offensive stuff that pisses people off and makes them angry, that then gets the rest of the cult to discount that person's opinion.
But at the same time, a lot of their thinking and ideology is based on anger at women for having rights, anger at gay people for being gay, anger at trans people for being trans. It's really kind of weird. It's just things that they don't like that they define as feminine. Mm-hmm. It's very like Jordan Peterson-y, but like even more extreme. And it's really
God, weird. I need to talk to Jordan Peterson one of these days. I think that would be fascinating. We'll see if we can do it. He seems to be losing the plot a little bit lately, so maybe
he keeps threatening to fight people, man.
Well, okay, I'll fight Jordan Peterson too. We can do that, Peach. I don't think you'll do very well, but who knows?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Brenton Lengel officially issues a challenge to fist fight Jordan Peterson.
I've got the money to pay his speaking fee, so if he wants to fight me, he's more than welcome.
Yeah, that would be great to see. So Christine Stewart, really quickly, I want to get this. I've met Hake. He's nice. I agree, actually. I very much disagree with Hake. I think that a lot of the stuff that he says and presents is really out there and potentially dangerous. But also, I can't help but like the guy. Like, he's there's a quality to him that I find intensely endearing, and also there is a kind of earnestness there. I think he's a true believer in a lot of this stuff, as opposed to a cynical grifter. And that's one of the reasons why I like talking to him, and I will have conversations like this. So I definitely don't want this stream to be like, let's drag Hake through the mud. That's not useful for anyone.
No, it's the ideas that are monstrous.
Yeah. Well, and here's the thing. I said before, like, there are some genuine nuggets of truth kind of informing some of the ideas that he has. Like, there are definitely men who feel abused and emasculated by women and by modern society. That's totally a thing. There are definitely, I won't speculate as to personal lives and stuff, but I'll just like point out, like, his opinion that like all evil is traceable, or not all evil, I'm sorry, but like all femininity is evil. Like, that strikes me as a wound. I don't know where it came from. I don't know why it's there. But there's something under that I think is true, not in the sense that women are evil, because no, that's ridiculous. But in that he is responding to genuine pain.
It's almost Freudian.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I brought up the oceanic phase, which is a Freudian
you
concept.
did.
Yeah. The Freud, I like it. I think that's the actual way that the universe actually is. I think babies have it right. But like, yeah, Freudians don't like the oceanic phase.
No. Well, and psychiatry's moved past Freud at this point too, so.
Oh shoot. You're right, Jemt. I should have brought this up. How can Jesus be born from evil Mary?
Oh, that's a really good point.
That's a phenomenal point. Now I want to go back and redo the whole thing. So thank you, Jemt.
Have you seen Raised by Wolves? You'd like that.
I have not. No, what's
Ridley
that?
Scott thing.
Ah, I have an interesting relationship with wolves. I think we've talked about it before.
Yeah.
All right. So, by the way, there was something like I meant to get to this in the debate, but I didn't. But there's one of the things that Alan Watts brought up, and I think the reason I didn't bring it up was there is another connotation to it that is a bit giggly because people need to keep their minds out of the gutter. But he pointed out that in life, when man is born, we are sensitive and soft and supple, and when we are, and the death, rigor mortis, we are hard and rigid. And that, yeah, see, it's funny. Yeah. Oh, just wait till Alan Watts in one of his lectures. He's talking about like how things are actually like events as opposed to things. So he compares people to like a whirlpool. We are something the universe is doing at this point. And so he's sitting there and he's like, yeah, so I've got my hand here and I can close it into a fist, but it's not really a fist. We should call it a fisting.
Oh God. Why?
I'm just like, okay, you were definitely giving this speech in the 50s.
Yeah.
So, yeah, or who knows? Because Alan Watts was a very interesting guy. So who knows? Maybe he was doing that in the 70s and he knew exactly what he was saying. Probably not, though. So, yeah, I think that one of the things that I think was really good that I pointed out, and you can tell me if you remember this, was when he said that women judged, and that this was a feminine quality.
Oh,
judging.
Yes.
Yeah. And then, of course, so God is feminine since God's the judge. And that's when he switched. And why I think this is kind of a de facto position of his, like that women are trying to be like God, which is literally just comparing them to Satan, since that is the popular conception of the fall of Satan.
Well, he was saying that women were trying to be like God from the beginning of the debate.
Oh, he was?
But he kind of doubled down on it there.
Yeah.
Because he can't answer that. Because his ideology requires him to judge how Christian somebody is.
Yeah, because not just that, but there were a lot of obviously contradictory things that were said, and I was trying to get the debate to that point. It's frustrating because you can, like, again, he's charismatic. You can tell he's a really nice guy. And like, I don't know where some of this hate comes from. I have no idea. I have suspicions, but I can't really speculate on that. But I really do think that some of this philosophy that he's been espousing is actually kind of actively ruining his life. Because if he genuinely does believe a lot of the things he believes about the world, there's some real pain there that's being covered up.
Well, the structure that he's in with Jesse Lee Peterson, what is it with Peterson's on the right wing? I just realized that. But like, Peterson's using him as a mouthpiece for his organization. And it's very in line with like how failed right-wing organizations work, where they view people as a means and not ends in themselves. And you can tell that a lot of his personality, because he's very nice, he's cordial to you. He doesn't like interrupt you as much as I do because I'm a jerk.
No, you have to interrupt me. You will never get anything out of me edgewise. And this is something that I actually really like about him.
Yeah,
he will admit when you've made a good point. That like sometimes people in debates, like, they just want to win. He will give ground where he needs to, and I think that there's a lot of integrity to that. But I'm sorry, what were you saying?
But you can also see like elements of his like personality being kind of subsumed into like the Jesse Lee Peterson delivery that he's kind of mimicking, and internalizing, and that's not healthy. If you're learning from somebody, you should take lessons from them to try to make yourself and the world a little bit better. You shouldn't subsume your personality onto somebody else, and I think that's the abusive structure that he's stuck in. And that's
Yeah.
only speculation. I don't
Mhm.
know Hake personally. He
Yeah.
might have been like that beforehand. I don't know.
Well, here's the interesting thing. So he said in the debate that, women raised babies only for the first 3 years, and then they were given over to be shaped by their fathers.
Right.
And like, he seemed to think that was a good thing. And this actually brings me back to like one of my favorite poets, Khalil Gibran.
Oh,
And
I
I'm
love Khalil.
I'm going to look this up because this is such a phenomenal poem. Like, people need to hear this. Like,
Is it in the
Bobby.
Prophet?
Yeah, it's in the Prophet. But yeah, I'm going to find it. While I'm looking for it, Bobby, you continue to entertain the masses.
Well, yesterday we kneeled before kings and bowed before emperors, but today we kneel only to truth, which is how I was exposed to Khalil Gibran. Yeah, which is from the 2000 game Deus Ex, which if you haven't played, you can't anymore because it doesn't really work on Windows 10 unless you mod it. So, sorry, Zoomers. If you are in an organization and you find yourself being encouraged to subsume your personality to the charismatic leader, you're not in a great organization. You should probably get out of it as soon as possible, and that goes for anything else.
Yeah. People who don't want you to think are never your friends.
They are not. There is no actual war on men. War is the continuation of politics through violence. There is no organized campaign of violence against men in this country or anywhere that I know of specifically. The Scum Manifesto was a thing in the 70s, but no one ever acted on it, except for the writer who actually went after Andy Warhol. And while I disagree with her methods, I also don't like Andy Warhol. So
you're talking about the woman who did the Scum Manifesto, the Society for Cutting Up Men.
Yeah.
I thought he might bring her up, actually.
Well, he doesn't know who she is.
Yeah. Okay. It's a good thing. Nobody tell Hake about her, please. I don't want to deal with that.
I mean, I'm in my 30s and I haven't heard of the right wing talking about her, so I don't think a lot of people know who she is.
They don't. But just wait. Just wait. I'm sure someone will come up with that.
It's all my fault.
So this is from Khalil Gibran's The Prophet. This is a brilliant book of poetry. With a number of sections. I had part of it read at my wedding and not the part that most people have read at their wedding because, I have to be a little different. But this is a very short chapter in it. The poem is called On Children. So essentially, like, the structure that this is there's a Christ-like prophet who has gone to this city and lived among them for a number of years, and he is about to return to get on a boat to the city of his birth, and it also kind of implies that it's equating that with death. And so as he goes, the people from the city all come out, and he and ask him questions, and he sort of does his version of like the Sermon on the Mount. And this is the poem On Children. So I'll read this. And a woman who held a babe against her bosom said, "Speak to us of children. Your children are not your children. They are the sons and daughters of life's longing for itself. They come through you, but not from you. And though they are with you, yet they belong not to you. You may give them your love, but not your thoughts, for they have their own thoughts. You may house their bodies, but not their souls, for their souls dwell in the house of tomorrow, which you cannot visit, not even in your dreams. You may strive to be like them, but seek not to make them like you. For life goes not backwards, nor tarries with yesterday. You are the bows from which your children, as living arrows, are sent forth. The archer sees the mark upon the path of the infinite, and he bends you with his might. That his arrows may go swiftly and far, let your bending in the archer's hand be for gladness. For even as he loves the arrow that flies, so he loves also the bow that is stable." I'm getting a little choked up on that, actually.
He's an absolutely beautiful poet, and if you haven't bought The Prophet yet, you should.
And if you've got children, like, you know why I reacted like that. My son is 3, and Ugh, every day.
Mm.
Best thing I have ever done in my entire life, and luckily probably the best thing I will ever do. Yeah. So I don't know. Again, it seems a lot that part of his problem with a lot of this is the kind of theology that he buys into, the graven image of God. And I would really love it if you would spend some time like looking into the Tao, checking out some Alan Watts. Love to see him if he'd chant. That would be very interesting. He probably won't. But.
No. It's good that you're reaching out to him and giving him something to think about, and it's good that his audience is being exposed to something more positive, but I wouldn't hold my breath on that one.
Yeah. Well, also when people change, you would think that changing in progress for a person is a result of them encountering the right ideas, but it's really not. Like a person's religion and ideas and ideology it grows out of their material circumstances. And that's not a way of saying that the environment 100% controls and determines a person's thoughts and goals and ideology, but people oftentimes genuinely approach life in the way that makes the most sense to them, that seems very logical and correct from their perspective. And that's one of the reasons why they say to understand all is to forgive all. Because when you see life from someone else's point of view, if you see it well enough, you instantly forgive them because you know that you would do the same thing in their position had you lived their life. And that's another reason why it's like so important to be compassionate and empathetic. In one of the first debates, when I kind of brought up empathy, he was very guarded on that. And I think it's probably because he has a decent amount of it, but it can be painful to do it. But, that's, again, me speculating. I don't know.
Which is so weird because Christianity is predicated entirely upon empathy.
Yeah. It definitely is. But the thing is like, even as I said, like rigidity, hardness is the mark of death. Compared to softness, which is obviously, the mark of life. All life bends and moves like rock. There's nothing more rigid on the planet than like metal and rocks and minerals, which are, they're dead compared to living things. So I think there's kind of a thing. There's this phenomenal, oh my God, there's this phenomenal song by the Crew Shadows. And I think the song is called Valkyrie. And there's a lyric where Rogue, who's my writing partner, phenomenal guy, says, there's a fragment of me in the words I'm giving. A doorway is opened if you listen too long. So who are you now? And were you wounded by living? Do you like who you are? Do you like what you've done? And like, it really is that, like, I think we come into this world as a child. And part of growing up and joining a peer group and making it out of this a very safe and sheltered, life with your parents, like what my son is living right now. And you kind of get tossed into what is honestly a very cruel and disturbing world. We've got the freaking Russians shelling the power plant. We've got the threat of nuclear war. We've got, I meant to bring up we got the Proud Boys. Jesus.
Oh yeah, I forgot he shilled for the fascist street gang.
Yeah, I meant to bring that up because I even wrote it down in my notes, but then just the conversation didn't go there. But
it was such a buckshot. It's hard to keep track of it.
Yeah, Gish Galop. He's sitting there talking about the Proud Boys' masculinity and the Proud Boys. Yeah, because I'll tell you what, if you want someone to respect you as a man, here's what you do. You call yourself a boy and just sing a rejected Disney song. Come on.
They sing Disney songs?
Yes, not even good ones. They
God.
sing a rejected Disney song from Aladdin about how Aladdin is a piece of crap and is going to make his mom proud at some point eventually. Hence the thing, proud of your boy. It never made it into the movie, and it was only out like in the it only came out like in the Broadway show, which is how Gavin McGinnis, the false Gavin, um, came upon it and like made it the inspiration for the name of his little group of cronies.
I knew about the cereal, but I didn't know about that.
Oh god, yeah, where they punch each other. It's the weakest punches you've ever seen in the world, and they have to name like, like I have done body conditioning that one punch that I've taken for that is like more than I think all of every single punch from every single Proud Boy breakfast cereal initiation like combined. And that's not me actually bragging. No. That's just how freaking stupid and weak those people are.
I had an MRE that was harder than that.
Yeah. Now, you know what also, by the way, so this is a fun fact.
Yeah.
I sort of became aware of the Proud Boys when they were very first starting, because somehow online, I have this friend who is a leftist activist, and he has blonde hair and looks a very certain, very distinct way. And somehow I became friends with a right-winger that looked exactly like him, but with dark hair. And I'm just like, oh, holy shit, I found the evil version of Zach. And it turned out this guy was like one of the very first Proud Boys. And I'm sitting there and I saw like the thing for the like big like coming out party in New York. And I'm looking at all these guys. If we're talking traditional masculinity, whoa, long way to go. And they were all like really excited and worshiping that Pharma Bro guy, the one who
Martin Shkreli, who jacked up the price of
because Martin Shkreli, who jacked up the price of a drug
for blood poisoning.
Yeah,
I forget
for blood
what the
poisoning.
disease is.
Yeah, and I think he's in jail now.
Yes.
Yeah, and he was like at their coming out party, and they were like agog at this guy. And I mean, if you've seen Shkreli, like, holy crap, is that guy a shrimp? Like
a pencil.
Yeah. So again, it's like, and these people are being put up by Hake as an example of the male ideal. It's just so twisted in a way.
Yeah, like I said earlier, it's an idea of this idealized version of the past that never existed. It's a simulacrum, which is some Baudrillard for you guys. But I just saw a thing on Dateline, or not Dateline, 60 Minutes recently, which I was watching 60 Minutes, so I must have been real bored. But the town of Mayberry in the old Andy Griffith show is a real place, but it wasn't where the show was filmed. But these people are coming to the town to see the real Mayberry, and the town has changed itself to resemble the show more. So the town is a copy without an original. And the idea that these people are trying to replicate is a copy without an original itself. Like their version of masculinity has never existed, and it probably will never exist because they'll never realize it. No one ever will.
It's a copy of a copy.
And then they're trapped in this cycle of trying to produce the copy without the original. And it's sad. It would be, I would have more pity for them if it wasn't so corrosive to our society that I have to live in.
I mean, I have a ton. Compassion is like the thing for a Buddhist. Like that's, I mean, I even have compassion for Donald Trump, as disgusted as I am with him as a human being. So I do definitely have compassion for these people who get kind of suckered into this very dangerous ideology. It's not like there aren't cults on the left wing, because there totally are.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I just said my dad's in one.
Yeah, I really need to watch that Tiger King season 2. Is it as good as season 1?
No, and the cult pops up in season 3.
Oh, great. There's a season 3?
Yeah, season 3 is about Doc Antle.
Oh yeah, Oh God, it's funny. Doc Antle really reminds me of this guy. I'm not going to say any names, but one of my
I've
first
met
jobs.
Doc Antle.
Oh yeah. He really reminds me of the guy who ran like one of my first jobs. Who, um, he did it dictatorially. He very much it was very abusive to the women that worked for him, and like he definitely had like this whole cult of personality going on where he's dating his own employees and stuff. And I won't speak completely against him because there were some good aspects to him, and I learned a lot at that job. But like I think there's a very specific kind of archetype, and I think both him and Doc Antle were pulling on the same archetype.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. So, Bobby, we've been at this for a little while now, and we are going to be streaming tomorrow. What time do you want to do this tomorrow? I think we said 9:00.
Yeah, that's fine with me, man. Whenever I should be free all day. Again, I'm bunkering down because there's about, I think they said about 60,000 motorcycles showed up to my town in Florida for this week. I've got Mongols, outlaws, and angels in town, if that means anything to anybody.
I know about the Angels.
Yeah,
and I'm vaguely familiar with the. Yeah, just hunker down and avoid all of that. There's a lot to be said for the South Park episode where the bikers were going.
That's exactly what my life is going to be like for the next week. So I'm free pretty much whenever you want, brother.
Cool. So, by the way, for me, coming up, Snow White Zombie Apocalypse, Volume 1. The Kickstarter is linked in the description. We are going for another 18 days. We have hit our goal, so you definitely will get your book. And I'm really, really excited as to where the series is going. This is my first graphic novel ever. So if you want to get yourself a copy, a signed copy, have it for, posterity, please head right over there and get it. And if you missed Durruti, Shadow of the People, that's, by the way, what this is from, about anarchist Buenaventura Durruti. It's a biopic / war epic. You can get the first issue on that Kickstarter as well as an add-on. And as an added bonus, all of your money will go towards continuing these two series. And being able so that I can pay my artists and send the book to you guys. So that's really, really exciting. I will also there is a podcast I'm going to be recording. I don't know when it's going to be broadcast, but at 6 p.m. tomorrow, I'm going to record a broadcast with Inebriart, which is a really cool podcast. Kit Buss, an artist that I work with, she's done some covers and we're working on a secret project together. People might know her as the person who did the original character designs for Critical Role Season 1. Which just premiered in The Legend of Vox Machina on Netflix. Like every one of those characters that you see, their original design was from Kit. And she was on the podcast, and I got really interested in them and reached out, and so they're going to have me on. And they may or may not be inebriated. I'm still trying to decide if I should drink for the podcast or not because I'm on zero food.
Shots.
Yeah. What were you going to say?
Bourbon's in your blood, brother.
It definitely is. The funny thing is, I probably said this before, but I didn't really become a bourbon drinker till I left Kentucky. It was like when I was in New York is when I really started to get a taste for bourbon. And I think it was just like almost a little bit of homesickness, even though Kentucky isn't technically my home, but I lived there for as long as I did. There were times like I wouldn't have been caught dead drinking bourbon because I was pissed that my parents had moved me there. But it's a phenomenal liquor.
Try a Boulevardier,
mm-hmm.
which is 2 parts bourbon, half an ounce of sweet vermouth, half an ounce of Campari shaken over ice, dash of bitters.
Yeah. So looking in here, by the way, there's a lot of comments here. I'm so happy about this, guys. People asking about this stuff. Kristen Stewart, thank you for being here, and thank you for you've been a great commenter on the wall for a while. White Panther, Gemt, yeah, the banter is really fun. Please do keep it up, but also remember to be compassionate, because at least if you look at my, I think I brought this up in the debate actually, because when we were defining evil, I said that evil is essentially fundamental darkness. I've been meaning to do a video on this, of Buddhism and the problem of evil, but it's a mistake, essentially. It's an error. And in what it stems from, and it seemed like Hake really agreed with this actually, is the mistake that we think we are just ourselves and like little me in this body, and not anything else. And in fact, we are the whole organism. We are the universe eyeing. And if you want to hear, Google Alan Watts. The YouTube channel is like Journey of Purpose. And it may have changed the title, but it used to be You Are the Eternal Universe. Search that, you'll probably find the video. And if you want to understand, like when I talk about Buddhist stuff, like the truth of the Lotus Sutra, like I am like a good way to understand that is to check out that particular video by Alan Watts, because he spells it out in a way that someone from the West who has no experience with Buddhism or Buddhist philosophy can understand. Also is phenomenal. Are you trying to shakabuku me, Brenton? I'm on to you. You know, it's funny. So when I was a young men's leader in Harlem, I was very good at shakabuku, apparently. And people would come up to me and they'd be like, you know, you're so good at doing shakabuku. And I'm like, no, I'm just bad at not doing it. I am a chronic oversharer. And like, if it's something that I'm really passionate about, I just have to freaking tell everyone and anyone about it. And honestly, it's gotten me into trouble a few times. So I am constantly shakabukuing and never shakabukuing. Bobby, where can people find you?
I am Mustache Bob 2 on Twitter. If you are Mustache Bob 1, hit me up, because we need to fight in New York City, because there can be only one Mustache Bob. I'm also Mustache Mafia on YouTube. I'm sure Brenton will probably put my YouTube politely in the description for this.
Yes, send it to me again, because I follow you, but like when I search Mustache Bob, I get Mustache Bob 1.
That son of a gun. I will absolutely send it to you again.
I will add it to the description. I should have done that already. I'm sorry, Bobby.
This week, Wednesday or Thursday, I will be doing a talk about the CRT ban and the Don't Say Gay laws in Florida. Eventually, I'll be doing a series reviewing and explaining who each of the Supreme Court justices are. And then I will drink a lot of whiskey, because that will be a sad series. Absolutely.
And look forward to, Bobby and I are going to be doing the final chapter of George Orwell's seminal nonfiction book that often gets put in the fiction section, Homage to Catalonia, where George decided to leave his comfortable life in England and ban fascists from life with what he hoped was going to be a machine gun, but he never gets the machine gun.
Spoiler alert, he never does get that M&G, no.
No, he definitely never does. So yeah, definitely check that out tomorrow night. We're going to be talking about that, and we will probably be talking about Ukraine. My wife has been like, you know, she freaked out about COVID and learned everything about COVID. And she's like, I feel like Ukraine is your COVID. Yeah. So please do like and subscribe, share the videos, check out the debate with Hake. I'm really happy with how that went. It was very interesting and insightful. And Hake is, you know, like I said, we have talked a lot about what I think are the incorrect ideas that he has. But I really got to say, like, he will engage in ways a lot of people on the right are too afraid to. And I really respect that. And I also think he's, you know, beyond the wild ideas. I think he's a pretty nice guy. You know, I just wish he wouldn't slander the Lotus Sutra constantly. All right. I will catch you guys later. This is Brent from Insurrection with Brenton Lengel, signing off.